Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. I never really talked about this topic before, but I've seen so many things online. People telling about their stories, their journey to Islam and how they found Islam, and going into a little brief biography of their lives and things like that. So I decided that I would tell my story, a brief story of my upbringing and my journey to Islam. So I was born into I would say a non-religious household. My mother and my father, my stepfather, um, they weren't really religious people. They really didn't practice Christianity. They were basically probably Christian by just name and name alone. They never really took me or my younger sister or brother to church at any time that I ever can remember during my lifetime, during my upbringing as a child. But my grandmother, who I spent the majority of my time with as a child, she really exposed me to Christianity. She used to bring me to church with her on Sundays. I remember going in, I remember her giving me peppermints and things like that. And I would fall asleep on the pew, and she would wake me up, because they in church they have you in there for hours and hours and hours. So she really just exposed me to that, and I used to go to church with her on Sundays until I got really old enough, maybe in my teenage years. I just decided that I didn't want to. I no longer wanted to go to church with her anymore, so I stopped going with her to church. And I remember, as a kid, as an adolescent, your friends that you choose and things of that nature. You're basically on the same accord. You get into mischief. You get into doing a lot of different things that are you know maybe considered criminal acts that we used to get into a lot of things as kids, as teenagers, as youngsters. And I never really went to school like that. I used to go off and on. I used to get suspended a lot. They put me in alternative schools, until I got up in my teenage years, around 16, 17 years old. you know Being that I had made certain life choices that wasn't really good life choices, and really being around people that were positive, that were pushing me in a positive direction. I was influenced by the wrong type of people. So eventually that led me to going to juvenile, and then from juvenile going to I went to what they call Long Lane School, which was in Middletown, Connecticut. I went there, and it was, I really can't describe what it was like, but it wasn't like jail really. It was just more like it was more like a
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And by the way, I do think that was messy, but I don't know if you
maybe I can say it was sort of like a boot camp type deal, minus the rigorous workout regimen and the strictness of a boot camp. It wasn't really like that, but they had a lot of different rules and regulations as far as living there on that compound. It was a compound. But then they had another part of it that was like, they call it the unit. And the unit was jail for teenagers. It was jail for teenagers. And if you run away or if you got into fights on the compound with other people, they will put you inside the unit as a disciplinary action, or if you ran away. So I ran away I ran away from there 2 times. The the first time I ran away,
that song you put out where
we had to steal a car to get home. Me and my childhood friend, one of my best friends named Corey. Me and Corey ran from Long Lane School. Stole a car, went back home. I probably was out for maybe a day. The same day, that night that I got home, we escaped from Long Lane School. We ended up stealing another car and going out to some other place to get more cars. Because that's what we used to do. It was like we was on some New Jersey Drive stuff. So we used to steal cars from our residential areas in our town. We would take those cars and drive out to the outskirts, to the counties around, the surrounding counties. We would steal cars and bring them back to our city because we was under the belief that, man, listen, if we go out of town and steal a car, we could keep it for longer. Not knowing, not even taking into consideration that if you steal a car, the car is stolen anywhere you go. Any police officer that runs that plate, the car is reported stolen, is gonna come back stolen. So I ended up getting into a high-speed chase that same night. Ended up going back to juvenile hall, then going from juvenile back to Long Lane School. They put me in the unit. I stayed in there for a while. I actually got discharged from the unit. I actually went home, but it was another time that I ran from Long Lane School, and we didn't even make it out of Middletown. We got caught right there in Middletown because I was with this other fool, and he ended up he was the driver, so we ended up getting into a high-speed chase. This dude almost killed us. Long story short, we ended up going back to Long Lane School with new charges, outside charges. So we had to go back to court through that whole situation again like that. But I ended up getting out of Long Lane School, and more bad life change, more bad life choices. So I ended up getting back. I was back and forth in jail for the majority of my life. The majority of my life, I have been in and out of prison. In and out of prison ever since I was a teenager. So in jail was where I really got exposed to certain things. I was intrigued at first by the Nation of Gods and Earth, the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth. A'udhu Billah. And going through that whole belief, it's sort of a offshoot. It was started by Clarence 13X, who was a part of the Nation of Islam, but then he got expelled from the Nation of Islam for teaching that the black man was God. The Nation of Islam is a black nationalist group. It's based on nationalism, and he was a part of that organization, the Nation of Islam, and he was kicked out. So he started the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths, which incorporated a lot of the teachings of the Nation of Islam, the actual facts, the solar facts, but he added on the alphabets and the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet to that. So I was intrigued with that for a while, but then that really started opening me up to Islam, because in those teachings you will always come across the word Islam, and but they use it as they break it down into what they call an acronym. So the acronym for Islam would be I, Self, Lord, and Master. That's how they use it and break it down through the supreme alphabets in the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths. So I would come across that a lot. Then I ended up getting out of prison, You know, I never really followed through with those teachings. I never really, you know, it was just like a jail thing, like something to do in the prison. You know, we used to, what they call build, we used to build and chop it up and use the supreme mathematics and talk in code using the supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabets and things like that. So I never really, that just, you know, it was just something that was in my repertoire, something that I had gotten exposed to, you know, that took me out of Christianity, because I was somewhat practicing Christianity to a certain extent, but then it just really didn't make sense to me, the whole thing, and how a person could really believe that Jesus was God and that Jesus was the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. You know, that tri-unison thing where God is 3 in 1. You know, so that never really sat well with me. So I was continuously searching and searching, trying to find the truth, looking for the truth, and was open-minded, you know, and was willing to be exposed to it. So I ended up getting out, got into some more trouble, went back to prison again, and I ended up coming across somebody that I was actually in this program called VTAN. You know, before they actually sent me to prison, they used to, I did have like the youthful offender and all that, so they used to offer different alternatives other than sending you to prison. So I met this individual there. His name was Nasheed. Nasheed, that's my boy. So I ended up meeting up with him in prison, and we became cellmates in prison. So, you know, he was Muslim. He was practicing. He was making the five prayers a day. He was doing his thing. And I started talking to him about Islam. He started telling me about Islam and telling me about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, and telling me about the 5 pillars of Islam. So I expressed to him my interest in becoming a Muslim. So right there, he gave me my shahada right there in McDougal Correctional Facility in Enfield, Connecticut. You know, I ended up becoming a Muslim with him. Then went to Juma, alhamdulillah. And my first time really hearing the adhan was beautiful. It brought me to tears. Like, it brought me to tears, man. It really did. And Islam was something that was just so, it was just something that resonated with me, really. It really resonated with me. You know, and it was all comprehensible. And it just made so much sense. It was all logical. It made sense. And it just sat well with me. You know, that God is one God. God is not 3 gods in one. You know, he's not, there's nothing comparable to him. And that makes the most sense, that out of 124,000 prophets that were sent, they all came with the same sharia. They all came with the same teaching, that God is one God, that he doesn't have any partners, that he doesn't have any equals, that he doesn't have anything that's comparable to him. It just made all the sense in the world to me. And you know, that brother, may Allah bless him, may Allah reward him and increase him. You know, he taught me so much. He taught me the 5 pillars of Islam. He taught me the 6 articles of faith. He taught me the Al-Fatiha. He taught me how to pray. You know, he exposed me to the true Islam. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless that brother. May Allah increase him wherever he is in the world. May Allah increase him in good, inshallah, in khair. Alhamdulillah. You know, and that's just how, you know, that was my journey to Islam, man. It was, you know, that's just in brief. It was a long road. It was definitely a long road, but Allah is the one who guides hearts, and Allah is the one who makes Muslims. So I just wanted to share that, alhamdulillah, with you guys. May Allah bless you. May Allah increase you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.